was just delighted to bring him on board. He had been in Europe and it was almost couldn't make the dates, but I begged him, pleaded, and talked to his wife, and he was able to maneuver and get out there. We were so happy to have him.
Overall, I'd say it's an excellent job of casting, but I think that Samantha, who picked her and why?
So the question is about the casting of Samantha Morton.
I don't remember. She's been nominated for 2 Academy Awards, and it was not easy to find someone who would play the role. And she would. She's very brave, and so, you know, you go through the list and you say, what about this, what about that, and what about Samantha Morton? Well, she's a great actress, and I think Michael had something to do with that, too. I think Michael had worked with her and wanted to work with her again, if I'm not mistaken.
You did an excellent job.
Yes.
I refer to her and Michael and the kids and everyone as acting machines.
Yeah. Yeah, no, Samantha, I had met Samantha when I did Jesus' Son, and we had a lot of mutual friends, and I just admired her work, and I wanted to work with her, yeah.
You know, we had, we should mention that when the movie was first put together, the screenplay and the basic casting of the leads, there were 2 producers named Kim Jost and David Robinson who aren't here, they're in New York, but they started this whole thing. They're not here to take the blame right now, are they? No, but we are.
And we had a great casting director, and I'm not sure behind the scenes how much he had to do with contacting Samantha. His name was Billy Hopkins, and he did a wonderful job.
Up there in the middle. Yell out if you have a question if I'm not saying it. Right here.
How long did the movie take to shoot from start to finish?
The question is how long it took to shoot the film.
Days of shooting, not prep. Prep included Hurricane Sandy. 28 days in the winter. That was all shot in the winter on either side of the Christmas holiday. But we had to wait till summer to shoot the Little League days. So there was one extra day, May 4th, I believe, and we shot both of those Little League scenes. So 28 official days and one what we call pickup day.
Can I ask a little bit about bookending it with the baseball scenes and the connection with baseball, Stephen?
The baseball, the opening with baseball just felt very natural, and that had always existed. And then I ended the screenplay with the whole family dies, and that was it. That was good enough for me. And then we were talking and we were shooting, and it was getting very intense. Like you could just feel how intense it was, and we're like, this is gonna, John said, I think this is gonna be, sort of intense. I think we need to bookend it with, to see that he's, prospered and kind of moved on, and see him in another time and place, which worked out really well.
Interestingly, waiting for Charlie, he came back, it was like 4 months later or whatever. He'd grown almost 3 inches. He looks really different.
Actually, I noticed that, and I was wondering if it was like supposed to be a whole year later. But yeah, just in 4 months. Other questions? Up at the top?
Did your father come up with a far outline?
Yes.
Of course. Did I see one over here? Way up top?
This question is for Michael. You have one of the most diverse filmographies that I've seen ever. How do you go about picking the roles?
Well, it's very different. It's different. Honestly, I have a different reason for everything I do. With this, I spent a lot of time in Chicago, most of my 20s and off and on in my 30s, and I saw Henry when it came out, and for me, just the opportunity to work with John was very meaningful because I'd been watching his work ever since nobody knew who the hell I I don't know, it was a Chicago thing. It's like, I can work with John Gunn. And being a Chicagoan, that was meaningful to me. And I also just thought, like was said earlier, I really liked this story, because as twisted and kind of barbaric as it is, there's underneath it all is it's really about love, which is so bizarre that, you know, most of the time, if you say, oh yeah, the movie about love, you would assume it would be like, you know, Ryan Reynolds and, you know, Rachel McAdams holding hands by a river, but you know, that would make me vomit. But this is like, this is actually really about, you know, love and familial love, and it just happens to be through a glass darkly.
Well, the character of Catherine, what she did for love of her extremely ill son. I mean, it was a mother's love gone horribly awry. And I'm reminded of Apocalypse Now, where they had the scene where they were eating the shrimp. They were sending Martin Sheen out, and what's Stradlin, the wonderful actor, who played the, I don't know, he's a colonel or general, and they were listening to Marlon Brando, and says, well, he's, you know, his methods have become unsound. And I sort of think Catherine's acted from great love for her child, but her methods have become unsound.
I don't want to, I'm sorry for throwing another cast question your way, but I have to say, I think Natasha Callis is just magnificent. I think just carries so much on the shoulders in so many different scenes, and I bought every bit of that emotional turmoil. So I'm just wondering where you found her, what that process was.
The question is how they found Natasha.
We were looking for kids, and we were casting with Billy Hopkins and seeing boys and seeing girls. And, you know, you also look on the West Coast, so they send you tape and stuff. We were shooting in New York, but Kira Sedgwick had done a movie with Natasha called The Possession, I believe. And Stephen Kira from working with her husband on a while. And so she called up one day and said, listen, I worked with this girl. She's one of the best actors I've ever worked with. And you just really have to, and you consider her, and we hired her.
She said Kira's name is in the special thanks.
I don't know her drink.
Up there?
Well, John, this is one of your first movies where it wasn't adult oriented, it was more like the kids' story. Was that difficult to do something that was more like family movie?
Well, you know, it started as a kind of a family movie, but no, I love these kids were so great. I just love seeing them every day, and you know, child actors. There's a lot of stories about child actors, but these two were just great kids, great actors, and it was interesting because Natasha was just instinctive, and Charlie really had a plan, but they were wonderful together. And you know, you have to have their parents. So we had both mothers on the set. They had great moms, which you know, we were really lucky. So for working with the kids, I loved working with those kids. And again, years ago, I was doing a TV show, and I had never worked with kids at that point, and we had to have a little 6-year-old boy come in, and I'm thinking, and it was fairly complex what the kid had to do. So, you know, we're reading, I'm going, where are we going to find a kid that can do this? We found 3 kids that were great, and the kid we cast was just so. It's one of those times you go, he's 6 years old, he hasn't studied. Where does this come from? And it was a time in my life I just said, we're born with gifts, you know. I mean. So I love working with kids.
I think we have time for one more question. Right here.
Then we'll do one more after.
We talked about the genesis of the story, and earlier John commented on being motivated by character realism. And so I'm wondering, both from the writing and the acting and directing points of view, how much you researched and drew on the real news stories about organ harvesting, because people actually do this. So, in developing your characters and
The question is how much research went into kind of the news story organ harvesting?
Well, obviously everyone's aware this happens, and I didn't really do any research into the actual organ harvesting, but I remember I came out to Chicago to work with John, and we were sitting there and in the kitchen, and we were like, at some moment right now, somewhere, this is exact scenario is happening, So just knowing that what is possible and what is, who was it that was,
Franzak baby.
no, there was somebody.
Yeah, what's her name?
It was going down right when we were,
One who was kidnapped up in Lake Tahoe.
Lake Tahoe, yeah.
It's held for retaining the Dugar.
Yeah, so that was all going on, like, as we were doing this, and it didn't inform the story at all, but it was just like, reinforcing, like, yeah, crazy, she was out there for 18 years or whatever, however many years, and no one, parole officers came, and it was just sort of this idea that, like, this stuff happens, and it's probably happening right now, unfortunately. This lady, she's.
One more, yeah.
Repeat the question,
Yeah.
please.
Question?
So she was just asking about the relationship between Samantha Morton's character and if I had been inspired by Kathy Bates' character in Misery. And I really wasn't. I mean, I definitely, obviously, the contained, sort of domestic thriller, if you want, you think of Misery immediately. But it didn't really inform it. I believe it did inform Samantha's performance. I know she was very interested in Kathy Bates, and she also mentioned one of the Cougars. So it was, those are kind of things that she was mentioning.
And also Kim Stanley in Saving Us Saturday Afternoon, which to me, if there's any film that's similar to this, that would be it. Kim Stanley was one of the great American stage actresses who didn't do many movies, but was a brilliant actress.
Very good. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your time with us.
Thank you.